Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Vincent and Jest, I'm back. 2 month break, no longer. New apartment, new bookshelves, no more nasty old dungeon. Life is pretty good, I think. And I'm happy to be back here with you guys talking about books. Um, Today, it's a little different topic. I wanted to pick something easy that I was familiar with to kind of get back into the swing of YouTube. So we're going to be talking about four popular psychology books. Some may call it self-help. I don't really discriminate. And I'm going to be assessing if these books are bullshit or not bullshit. Can I say that? If I can't say it, cut the video or do the bleep. But yeah, just analyzing these books. Are they good books or are they worthless schemes, manipulations, get rich things? Uh, who knows? So, yeah. And I did want to address the state of the self help book industry. I know there's a lot of negative connotations with self help books or like psychology books in general. Um, I haven't read that many, maybe 6 to 7 in my many years of reading, which I'm not like voraciously going through self help books after self help books. So I'm not like an expert in the field, but as an as an only child growing up and an introvert, I found some of these books to be pretty helpful in growing socially, uh, aiding in my communication and connection with others. So I don't really have a problem with self help books. I think they definitely can be helpful as long as you choose the right ones. So that's why we're looking at these books today. So before I get into the four books, uh, I have a structure for this video for each book. I'm going to be talking about one, what is the book about? What are the contents of the book? How is it divided? What are the main points? I'll go through those briefly. Two, is the book bullshit or not? Is it worth reading or is it a fraud? And then three, uh, who should read this book or why you should read this book. Just like a general recommendation at the end. So that's the plan. Without further ado, let's get into book one. Book one, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, published in 1936. So this is an older book. Uh, Dale Carnegie was mostly writing this for salesmen, how to connect with others better and make more sales. So that's the pitch. Um, it is a little dated. You can tell it was written in 1936. But I do think it's a valuable book. Now, this is divided into four parts. There are fundamental techniques in handling people, 6 ways to make people like you, how to win people to your ways of thinking, and be a leader, how to change people. Now, Carnegie's focus here is on being genuine and appreciative of others and being honest as well. So, this might be a little different than some of the more Machiavellian uh, books on like influencing people. Carnegie's not really out to trick anyone. It's more about making others feel good. And in return, if you make them feel good, they will help you feel good. Or they will help you get what you want. So that's like the overarching theme. Carnegie really pushes being friendly, showing optimism. He's he's against being self-absorbed, being aloof about others, because that's not the way that you connect with people. Now, is How to Win Friends and Influence People bullshit? No, I don't think it's bullshit. This is a classic book for a reason. Dale Carnegie has some timeless wisdom. very simple tips and techniques. I don't like the word techniques, but it's simple. Um, People have been saying these ideas for thousands of years, but it's popular because these ideas work. Being nice to people, smiling, saying other people's name, to name a few of his ideas. Um, all this is just basic communication, and we often forget that. So I think this is a good book of like reminders of how to live and how to interact with others. My criticisms of this book are that one, it's dated. There's a ton of references to just wildly corny uh, situations that wouldn't really be acceptable now. Not in an inappropriate way, but in like a cringe way, to use a modern word. Uh, Another criticism, just way too many anecdotes. I get that anecdotes and stories are a good way to like persuade others, but it was just too many. The book could have been shortened down, but you can say that about most books. So it is what it is. And my third criticism is that Carnegie had a very optimistic view on humanity, where he's like, "Oh, if you do something good for someone, they'll always like you." Or he just viewed people, at least in this book, very highly. And at least nowadays, I don't think that's how the world works. Like, yeah, a lot of people are good, but um, a lot of people are also not good and won't respond the same way that Carnegie thinks they'll respond to his ideas. So, yeah, not everybody's the same. But overall, good book. I would recommend this to anybody who wants to improve in interpersonal relations. Just talking to people, um, making friends, trying to make deals with other people, or trying to get out of conflict or manage conflict. I think this is a good book to read and review, at least for anybody. So, yeah. How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. On a similar note, we have book number 2, How to Talk to Anyone by Lael Lowndes. This was published in 1998, and it's 92 little tricks for big success in relationships. 92 tricks. Now, this book was kind of paraded to me, at least from what I saw, as like the modern How to Win Friends and Influence People. And it was written by a woman. Now, this book is very similar to Carnegie's book. It deals with interpersonal relations and how to achieve success and interacting with others, but it's more psychologically based than Carnegie's book. There's a lot about like nonverbal communication, like when to smile at people, or when and how to make eye contact, and how to position your body when you're talking to people. And some of these tricks tricks are a little more manipulative than Carnegie's. They're sly. Lowndes is kind of sly in this book, but I think this book succeeds in advising you on how to do well in large social groups, social events, especially in networking, mainly for business. I think this book can be helpful in uh, calming you down in like nerve inducing social situations, as well as being able to better control other people's first impressions of you, like how to maybe influence how they see you as a person instead of giving off this weak first impression. So that part was good, but that was only a small bit of the 92 tricks. So, uh, some good in this book. Now, is How to Talk to Anyone bullshit or not bullshit? I would say it's slightly bullshit, moving a little more closer to bullshit. This is somewhat of a regurgitation of How to Win Friends and Influence People, but with more modern lingo. Uh, but it's from 1998, and tech has already outdated this book. So it's not even that modern anymore. There's information about like pagers and uh, a big focus on emails and such. So it's outdated and it's less genuine than Carnegie's book. And I think being genuine is a big part of communicating and connecting with others. So that's why I can't rate it as highly. And that's why I think it's a little bit more bullshit. And in addition, there's 92 tricks. So that's like 2 to 5 pages each. And each chapter has an anecdote. So it gets kind of tiring to read. So that's my judgment of the book. Now, who should read it? I think anyone who is interested in learning about nonverbal communication, this book might help. I'm sure there's other books that might focus on that more and be better suited for your purposes, but it does decent in that aspect and for networking, getting in with large groups, maybe integrating yourself into some new circles. This book could be a help. So that's who I think should read How to Talk to Anyone by Lyle Lowndes. I think I just downgraded it to a 3 out of 5 stars. Um, so, yeah, okay, book. Okay, book number 3 is Think Again by Adam Grant, published in 2021, so 3 years ago. And this book is about rethinking or unlearning your beliefs. Now, many of us can be stubborn because we're humans. We can have outdated beliefs that we've held on to for a very long time, and we don't plan on changing them anytime soon. But the fact about the world is that the world is defined by change. And as George Bernard Shaw said, progress is made by change. And if you can't change your mind, you can't change anything. So, this is an important book on how to reevaluate yourself, your mind, how to reevaluate others, and how to reevaluate group thinking as well. So, Grant encourages the reader to acknowledge our own weaknesses and to practice humility in pursuit of something he calls confident humility, which is being secure in like the belief of yourself and your abilities, but maintaining the humility to ask yourself if you have the right tools for whatever job you're working on right now or whatever problem you're trying to work through. There's a number of other strong points that Grant makes in this book, especially in part 1, individual rethinking, where he talks about how it's good to be wrong because you can learn from being wrong. If you're right all the time, you're not learning really. And he also talks about the Dunning-Kruger effect of like overconfidence and armchair quarterback syndrome. So I had a great time learning further about these subjects, seeing some of the studies that he talked about. So yeah, I really enjoyed part 1. Part 2, interpersonal rethinking, like rethinking with others, and then collective rethinking as well, like large group rethinking. Those weren't as good, but I still thought it was a decent read. So the question is: Think Again bullshit or not? No. This was a great book. It helped me to reevaluate a lot of things that were going on in my head. I can be stubborn sometimes, so it was nice to realize that I don't have to be right all the time. I knew that, but to think about that, you know. So I would recommend this book to anyone who wants to reconsider how their mind works or how they form their own belief systems. And book number 4 is Super Communicators by Charles Duhigg. This was published in February of 2024, so around 6 months ago. And caveat, as you can see the bookmark, I'm currently reading this book. I'm about halfway through. I'm in part 2, I think. So I haven't finished this book yet, but I wanted to review it anyways. So this is a book, as you might be able to tell, about communication. And this is important because communication is one of the activities we do the most in our lives. You always have to communicate if you're with other people, and we're humans, so we're pretty much always with other people at some point during the day, unless you live alone and don't leave your apartment, maybe. But Duhigg identifies 3 kinds of conversation. One being the "what's this really about" conversation. So that's about um, practically making decisions. The "how do we feel" conversation. This is a more emotional mindset. And the "who are we" conversation, which is a more social mindset. And Duhigg says it's important to first, in a conversation, identify what kind of conversation you're having. Because miscommunications happen so often where um, someone's just looking for, let's say, emotional support. And then the person they're talking to starts offering logical advice. When, yeah, they may be right, but that's not what the person's looking for at the moment. So that's a communication breakdown. So that's why Duhigg says it's important to, uh, in the beginning of the conversation, you don't have to like directly identify it, but maybe ask some questions or state some goals for a conversation so you know like what's going on. Is this more emotional, social, logical, practical? So that's a great first step. And from there, you can proceed into a more productive conversation, and goals can be met easier and there will be less conflict. So I think that's a great idea. I really do. Now, is this book bullshit? As you could probably tell from what I just said, I don't think it's bullshit. I'm not even done with the book. And I think out of these 4, it's the one that I've applied most practically in my life already. Like identifying conversations and matching how the other person is in conversation. This isn't a manipulation at all. It's just working together with someone. And I found it really useful. So this book is not bullshit at all. Um, Maybe you already understand like the principles that Duhigg's talking about, and you don't need to read this book. But I recommend it. Recommend it to anybody who's interested in communicating more effectively. If you find yourself having arguments all the time, or you're like misunderstanding what people want, this can be a good book for you to read to uh, just improve your life. So, big thumbs up from me. We'll see how Duhigg ends the book, but I can't see it being below a 4 star. So, yeah. All right. Those are the 4 books. If you want to see my Goodreads reviews for any of the books, I'll put them down in the comments. And finally, before I conclude, if you want to see a new like bookshelf tour of the apartment, I have this bookshelf. It goes down, and then I have books on my desk. Then I have another like leaf-sized bookshelf over there. Um, I can show you guys all those and um, just kind of take you through the new place if you want. I'm not gonna force it on you guys, but let me know. Um, and thanks for watching. I'm happy to be back. Please interact with me in the comments because I love chatting in the comments. So yeah, have a good day. Talk to you later.